for this morning's shir. Sorry, let me just pull them up. To thank our TALMUD Torah sponsors for the month of Iyar, Yona Shushie Ehrenfeld, for dedicating the shiurim this month in memory of Yosef ben Shmuel Aron, ben Benjamin and Elys Wohl for dedicating the shiurim and drashos this month in memory of Moshe Chaim ben Tzvi Hirsch. Our week of learning sponsors, Dr. Shmuel Robyn Korobkin, in commemoration of the first yahrzeit of Shmuel's father, Leonard Korobkin, Lipa ben Yechezkel HaKohen. We also welcome back Reb Shmuel from Eretz Yisrael, Baruch haba. Welcome back. And Daf Yomi sponsors today Meir and Chava Weinheber in commemoration of the yahrzeit of Chava's grandmother, Rivkah bas Mordechai HaLevi. We open that in the merit of our TALMUD Torah. All of the neshamas will have an aliyah, and the family's neshama. With that, let us begin. Today's daf is Daf Ayin Dalit 74. We are picking up on Ayin Gimel Amud Beis 73b at the two dots. Masha'ein Kain B'Truma. It's right across from Tosas Tumas Atzmon Minayin. Good. Let us begin. Masha'ein Kain B'Truma. So the Gemara is quoting from the Bryce in yesterday's daf. Shabbos we saw that halacha l'maisa truma. When you have truma tmeya, you can't burn truma tmeya in a way in which a person goes ahead and gets benefit. So the Gemara said, Minalan. From where do we know that? So Amar Rabbi Yava, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Amar Kra, Lo bi'arti mimenu b'tamei. So both say the pasuk says, I have not burnt, Lo bi'arti mimenu b'tamei, I have not burnt from it in a state of tumah. Talking about Meiser Sheni. So the Gemara says, Mimenu iya tamavir. So it's only by Meiser Sheni that you're not allowed to. Aval atamavir shemen shel truma shenitma. But you can burn the oil of truma that has become tamei. I ve'ema mimenu iya tamavir. Aval atamavir shemen shel kodesh shenitma. Maybe you should say that from it you can, Meiser Sheni you can't burn, but you could burn oil of kodesh that has become tamei. To which the Gemara says, Lav kavachomeru. It should be a kal v'chomer. What's the kal v'chomer? Uma meiser hakal amra Torah labi arti mena betame. When it comes to meiser that is a bit more lenient, the Torah, not a bit more. When it comes to meiser sheni, which is more lenient, the Torah says labi arti mena betame. I have not burned it in a state of tumah. So the Gemara says kodesh chamer l'kol shekain. Kodesh, which is more chamer than meiser sheni, all the more so. If that's the case, I can make the same kavachover from truma. To which the Gemara says, truma is also more chamer than meiser sheni. Haksiv mimenu. Rabbi say the Torah says about meiser sheni mimenu. Right, mimenu coming to limit halacha to meiser sheni. I says the Gemara umarois mistabra kodesh lo matina shekain pnakas. So Rabbi says, remember again, it makes sense that I'm not going to exclude kodesh. Why? Because kodesh has all of these chumras. Rabbi say that's the mnemonic for the chumras of kodesh. What does it stand for? Pigul. Kodesh can become pigul, as we spoke about yesterday. No the prohibition to leave over. It is a karban me'ilah, subject to me'ilah. Kores, intentional and willful consumption of kodesh illegally brings a prohibition of or a punishment of kores. Asr li onein, and it's asr to an onein. Adarabba, I can say just the opposite. Truma lo matina. Truma should not be excluded. Why? Shekain machpaz. What's machpaz? Misa, again, willful consumption of truma by a non-Kohen brings a death penalty. Chomesh, so we'll say inadvertent consumption of truma by Yisrael comes with a penalty fifth. Vein lapidyon, it cannot be redeemed. Va'asur lezarim, and it cannot be consumed by non-Kohanim. To which the Gemara says, Hanach nefishan. Okay, it's true, but Kodesh has more chumrus. The other possibility is kares adifa. That kares ultimately again is even more important, or I should say not more important. Kares is more severe. Good. So we'll say let's go weiter. So all we're doing, by the way, in much of today's daf is dissecting the big brisa from yesterday. Va'ochlon betumas atzmon loke masha'enkin betruma. So let's remember again. The brisa said meiser sheni and bikurim. If they are consumed betumas atzman. So let's remember again, what's the case of tumas atzman? Interesting chiddush. Tumas atzman is the situation of, tumas atzman is where the items themselves are tameh, but the person himself is tahar. Right? So the Gemara says, "Va'ochlan betumas atzman," they can be consumed, right? If they themselves are tamei. Ochlan betumas atzman. I'm sorry, I should say differently. Va'ochlan betumas atzman. If you eat meiser sheni bikurin while they are tamei, but you are tahar, loket, you get malchus for that. Masha'in came with truma. But I will say this is not the case in truma, which is very interesting. So by truma, if the truma is tameh, but the person is tahar, there's no malchus. Bikurim meiser sheni, if they are tameh and the person is tahar, there is malchus. Says the Gemara, milkahu delo laki ha'isura ika. So by truma, it's interesting. So if a person who is tahar eats truma tmeya, there's no malchus, but it's aser. So minalan, from where do I know this? Amikra b'sha'arecha tochlenu. The Torah says, we'll say this is yesterday's daf, talking about again a bechar behema that developed a mum, where you're allowed to eat it b'sha'arecha tochlenu atame b'atar yachtav katziva ka'ayal. You're allowed to eat it even in a state of ritual purity. There's no problem. That's dafka bechar behema. Lazeh v'lo la'acher. It's only bechar behema that could be consumed ultimately again in a state of ritual impurity. But halacha l'maisa, not truma. So I will say, interestingly enough, even though there won't be malchus for eating truma tmeya if you're tahar, but halacha l'maisa, it's still aser. V'lav haba michlal asay, and I will say this is a prohibition that's learned out from a positive commandment, because remember again, it's being learned out from the pasuk that says b'sharecha tochlanu hatami v'atar yachtov. So the Torah is telling me I could eat bechar behema that developed the mum in a state of tumah, that I'm allowed to eat, but I can't eat truma. So I'll say that's a prohibition that's learned out from a positive commandment. When you learn out a prohibition from a positive commandment, that prohibition has the status of an asay. Okay. Amrav Ashi Mireshan Nami Shamis Mina, the Tana Bashir. We also go back to yesterday's daf. Remember again in the Brisa, we saw that the listing of the Brisa was an incomplete listing. Rav Ashi says you could see that from here as well. The Gemara says, the Tana Bashir, Midlo Katani, since we did not include in that list, top of Ayin Dalid, V'noagin B'sha'ar Shnei Shavua. Rabbi say we did not include in the list that what? That Truma and Bikurim, interesting of Truma and Bikurim, apply all years of the agricultural cycle. That's different than Meiser Sheni, Rashi points out, because Meiser Sheni only applies in years 3 and 6 of the agricultural cycle. Furthermore, Ve'lem Peyon, Bikurim and Meiser Sheni, Bikurim does not have Ve'lem Peyon. Ultimately, Truma and Bikurim cannot be redeemed. Masha'inki Meiser, as opposed to Meiser Sheni, which can. The Gemara says Shmamina. You see from here that the list of the Brisa was not a complete list. Good, Rabbi say second line down from the top. Ayin Dalad Amud Aleph. Rabbi say the Gemara now is going back to the discussion of Aral. Remember again, how did we get into all of this? A lot of stuff going on. How do we get? Right? I forgot. Right? How do we get into all of this? We got into all of this with a simple shaila. Is an Arel permitted to eat Meiser Sheni? That's where this entire discussion got started. Is an Arel permitted to eat Meiser Sheni? So it says the Gemara. Let's go back. Tashma. Nishtayru botzitzin ma'akvenes hamila. It will say, so if you did a bris milah and the bris was not complete, so there were strands of skin left on the makom milah, that's tzitzin hama'akvenes hamila. Hareze eina ochel, such a person is considered an arel, and as a result of being an arel, he cannot eat lo b'truma, v'lo b'pesach, v'lo b'katshim, v'lo b'meiser. Right? He's not permitted to eat any of these things, Rabbi say. Now again, what do we mean when we say meiser? My love, meiser dagon. Are we not referring? Both say meiser dagon. What's meiser dagon? Meiser sheni. Meiser sheni. So from here you see that what? That an arel is not permitted to eat meiser sheni. To which the Gemara says, no, that's not what it means. Lo meiser behema. Interesting. It's not referring to meiser sheni. It's referring to meiser behema. Meiser behema. Remember again, what's meiser behema? You put your animals in a pen. They run through the small opening. You take your red paintbrush. You go ahead and you smear a little bit of red paint on the 10th animal. Shalom Yisrael. That's it. That's it. To which the Gemara says, meiser behema. Meiser behema. That's kachim. Hainu kachim. Ultimately, again, that's a case of kachim. So why would you reckon that separately? To which the Gemara says, lo tamech. Okay, you're right, but milo tanan pesach v'katani kachim. You will say pesach is also kachim. Yet Pesach is reckoned separately, to which the Gemara says, no, that's different. Bishlama Pesach, ukachim tzrichi. I have to go ahead and what? I have to go ahead and list Pesach and Kachim separately. Why? Listen to this. The Itana Pesach, Mishum Da'arelos B'Pesach Ksiva. See, Rabbi, here's what's interesting. When it comes to Pesach, the prohibition of arelos is explicitly written. The Gemara says, Aval Kodshim Emalo. But maybe by regular Kodshim, there should not be a din of arelos. Therefore, I have to write Kodshim. The Itana Kodshim, and if we would have just said Kodshim, Hava Mina my Kodshim. What's Kodshim? Pesach. I would have thought Kodshim refers by definition to current Pesach. Ella Meiser Behem Alamali. So both say, so I understand why I need to write both Pesach and Kodshim. But I will say, remember again, let's just go back for just a moment. We're trying to clear a very simple question. Is an orel permitted to eat Meiser Sheni? We have a brisa that says all of the things that an orel is not permitted to eat. And one of the things it says is Meiser. Slam dunk. It's clear. An orel is not permitted to eat Meiser Sheni. The Gemara says, no. The Meiser being referred to over here is Meiser Behema. To which the Gemara says, but again, isn't Meiser Behema Kodshim? Kodshim. And Kodshim was already listed. To which the Gemara says, no, it could very well be that Kodshim is a general category, but we're listing some more specific items. The same way that we're listing Pesach, we're also listing Meiser Behema. To which the Gemara says, Meiser Behema Lamli. But again, why would I need to list Meiser Behema separately? Why wouldn't Meiser Behema automatically be included under Kodshim? Ella Meiser Rishon. Oh, maybe Meiser over here, Abba say, is not Meiser Sheni, but rather what is it? It's Meiser Rishon. Rabbi say, who eats Meiser Rishon? Who eats Meiser Rishon? Levi. Now watch this. And furthermore, the Brisa reflects the view of Rabbi Meir. Listen to this. The Amar Meiser Rishon Asra Lezarim. Rabbi say there is a fundamental machlokes about Meiser Rishon. Take a look at Rashi. Rashi says it's Rashi actually second line down from the top. Rabbi Meir he Tamar Beperik Yesh Moish Musaros Meiser Rishon Asra Lezarim Hilchach Lein Ariel Samechad. Rabbi say, listen to this. We're going to get to it, it's very exciting. There is a fundamental machlokes. Is Meiser Rishon prohibited to Yisraelim? So here's what's interesting. The portion the Kohanim get is called Truma. What's the status of Truma for Zorim for 9 Yisraelim? Don't touch it, right? Well, you can touch it, but don't eat it, right? If you eat it intentionally, what's the punishment? Kares. Unintentionally, Chomesh, right? Payment of principal plus additional fifth. It's fascinating, Levium, your portion is not as consecrated, right? So the Shaila is, according to most opinions, actually a Yisrael is, Kohanim, don't rub you, don't, come on, calm down, right? Don't get too full of yourselves, right? So ultimately, again, so what happens? So there's a machlokes about Truma, about Meiser Rishon. So majority opinion is, Meiser Rishon is mutter to Yisraelim. It's mutter to Yisraelim. Rabbi Meir is of the opinion that ultimately it's Asr Lazarim. So a non-Levi is not permitted to go ahead and eat Meiser Rishon. So therefore, the Gemara suggesting is like this. When the Brisa says that an Orel is not permitted to eat Meiser, it's referring to Meiser Rishon, not Meiser Sheni. To which they say, therefore, so Tashma, B'Tana B'Chiyah Barab Midifti, Orel Asr B'Shtei Meisrus. Listen to this, because we'll say Barav Midifti said as follows, that an orel is asr in shtei meisrus, in 2 different types of meisrus. My love echad meiser dagan ve'echad meiser behema, to which the Gemara maybe it's referring to meiser sheni and meiser behema, to which the Gemara says no, maybe not meiser sheni, but rather hachanami meiser rishon v'Rabbi Meir. Maybe it's referring to meiser rishon, and it's the opinion of Rabbi Meir. So therefore, both say no raya. So we are still stuck, right? We're still stuck. At the end of the day, we still don't have a resolution. What is the status of an orel with Meiser Sheni? Okay, so I both say that question is still open. Tashma, let's go weiter. Onein aser b'meiser umuter b'truma. So now we're going to go through a whole list, which is really very interesting. An onein, remember again, I know we know, but let's just define our terms again. Onein is a person, again, in between death and burial. So an onein is aser b'meiser. Again, I will say, we generally assume that when unqualified, meiser means meiser sheni. That's our general assumption. So an onein is aser b'meiser umutter betruma, but ultimately again permitted to eat truma, ubepara, and an onion is also permitted to participate in para aduma, right? That we've discussed. Tvul yom, so we're going to go through 3 categories right now. So that's our onain. No meiser sheni, but ultimately mutter in truma and mutter to participate in para aduma. Both say, remember again, participation could take one of 2 forms. It could either be sprinkling or mixing. Tvul yom. Also remember again, who's the Tvul yom? Tvul yom is a person who has gone to the mikvah, but still is waiting for Herav Shemesh. Good. So Tvul yom, Aser b'truma, is not allowed to eat truma. Umutter b'para, can participate in para aduma. Ubemeiser, and is also permitted meiser sheni. Okay. 3rd category, mechusar kippurim. Now, say, who's mechusar kippurim? Mechusar kippurim is a person who has gone to the mikvah, but has to go ahead and bring karbanos. Right? He has certain karbanos that he has to bring in order to affect his complete tara. So mechusar kippurim, aser b'para, he can't go ahead and participate in para aduma. Umutter b'truma, but he's permitted to eat truma. Umeiser and meiser sheni. Incredible. So we'll say. So now let's go back. Vim isa. Now, if it's true that an orel is not permitted to go ahead and eat meiser sheni, aser b'truma, umutter b'para ubemeiser. So I will say, why not go ahead and include ultimately again an orel in this? Why is an orel missing from this list, right? And let's put in there an orel is aser b'truma and permitted to participate in para and permitted to eat meiser sheni. So we'll say, in other words, the fact that orel is not included over here would seem to point in the direction that what? That an orel is not permitted to go ahead and eat meiser sheni. To which the Gemara says, no. We'll say, take a look at Rashi. Vim isa, do orel motor meiser b'meiser, listening v'orel aser b'truma motor b'paro meiser kidamar la'el. So we'll say, the fact that orel is missing from this list would seem to point us in the direction that an orel is not permitted to consume meiser sheni. To which the Gemara says, Vim isa, so the Gemara says, Vim isa nisni orel truma mutar b'vara meiser, Hy'd de Rabbi Akiva he. So we'll say, no, it's different. The time of this price, the time of Rabbi Akiva, and we'll say Rabbi Akiva holds, the sign Rabbi Akiva omer ish the rabbos as sa'ara. We'll say, remember again, Rabbi Akiva takes a very interesting posture towards orel. How does Rabbi Akiva look at an orel? Rabbi Akiva looks at an orel as a person who is tameh. He looks at arelos as tuma. So which I will say, once you look at arelos as tuma, so that creates a very restrictive situation, because then halacha l'maisa, anything that a person who is tameh can't do, an orel can't do as well. Uman Tana the Palagli Rabbi Akiva. So I'll say, who argues on Rabbi Akiva? Listen to this. To which the Gemara says, Tana de Rabbi Yossi Habavlihi. We'll say the Tanu argues on Rabbi Akiva's Rabbi Yossi Habavli. Listen to this. Disanya. Here we go. Sreifas onin umechusar kippurim kshera. Ultimately, you're going to both say salacha l'maisa. So if you go ahead. If you take a look at Rashi for just a moment. Sreifas onim mechusar kippurim kshera. So the chayvan the mechusar maisu adayin tuma Allah v'lo karina beitar. So I'll say ultimately again, if you have the paraduma of an onin or mechusar kippurim kshera, Rabbi Yossi Abavli Omer, onin kshera mechusar kippurim psula. Rabbi Yossi Abavli will say it, onin is kosher, but ultimately again mechusar kippurim will be possible. Okay, so let's go back there. So we'll say, remember again, it's fascinating to see how it's this one shaila that is driving this entire discussion. But what's fascinating is kind of what's getting roped into this discussion. Still, we'll say, focus, laser focus, Orel, Meiser Sheni, Mutter or Aser, everything that is being brought up tangentially to answer this shaila. So Af Rabbi Yitzchak Savar of Orel Aser b'Meiser, even Rabbi Yitzchak holds that an Orel is not permitted Meiser Sheni. Dam Rabbi Yitzchak minayin la Orel sha'aser b'Meiser. Rabbi Yitzchak says, how do I know that an Orel is not permitted to consume Meiser Sheni? How do I know that? The Gemara says, Ne'emar mimenu b'Meiser, ve'ne'emar mimenu b'Pesach. But listen to this. It says mimenu by Meiser and mimenu by Karban Pesach. Rabbi says Gzer Shava. Ma mimenu Amar b'Pesach Arel Aser bo. Just like Rabbi said, we know that by Pesach an Arel is not permitted to eat Pesach. Rabbi said, how do I know that an Arel is not permitted to eat Pesach? How do I know that? explicit pasuk in the Torah. I will say explicit. So therefore, I will say so here's what we're doing. We're making Gzeir Shava between Pesach and Meiser Sheni. How do I making Gzeir Shava? It says Mimenu by Pesach. It says Mimenu by Meiser Sheni. The same way by Pesach, Arel is not permitted to eat Pesach. So too again, Arel is not permitted to eat Meiser Sheni. Great. To which the Gemara says, okay. However, Mufni. I will say, what does mufni mean? So I will say, one of the great things about learning the daf is we get to see these principles that we can apply throughout Shas. I will say, in order for, right, how do you make a Gzeir Shava? How do you make a Gzeir Shava? You find the same word or the same phrase in two places, and you create a halachic bridge. Now, that Gzeir Shava only works if what? If it's available. Excellent, right? It has to be available, which means it can't be used for any other drasha. Because I will say, if it's used, so first of all, right, so we're going to say it has to be open, it has to be available. So mufni has to be available. Di'i lo mufni, because we'll say if it's not available, I could destroy this Gzeir Shava. How could I destroy it? Ikal mifrach, mala pesach shkin chayav la mishum pigol v'no servitame. We'll say if it's not available, the truth is the Gzeir Shava doesn't get off the ground. Why not? Because we'll say the truth is it's not a good comparison. Why is it not a good comparison? Because Karban Pesach is much more chomer than Meiser Sheni. Because Karban Pesach has what? Pigol, nosar, and tameh. To which the Gemara says, Loi ifnuye mufni. No, don't worry. We got this, right? The Gzeir Shava is absolutely open. So the Gemara says, okay, well, let's talk about this. My mufni. We'll say, which side of the Gzeir? Now we're going to see, in order to make a Gzeir Shava, Rabbi say, you actually don't need the Gzeir Shava to be, you don't need the phrase or the word to be open on both sides. You just need it what? To be open on one side. Now, a one-sided Gzeir Shava is not an ironclad one, but at least it allows me to get started. So my mufni. So I'll say, ultimately, again, which side, right? So making Gzeir Shava mimenu from Pesach to Meiser Sheni. You're telling me now that it's open. Which side is open? Pesach or Meiser Sheni? Amar Rava, Amar Rabbi Yitzchak, Tlas mimenu ksiva Pesach. Rabbi said, let's analyze this. The word mimenu, this is fascinating, appears 3 times by Karban Pesach. 3 times in Karban Pesach. And Rabbi say, the pasuk that we're referring to over here is like this. Asochlu mimenu na. Don't eat from it. That's mimenu number 1. Don't eat from it raw. Ubashal mavushal ma'im kim tzli eish rosh shakira. So I'll say first mimenu is in the pasuk that tells me don't eat from it raw. Second, v'lo sosiru mimenu. Don't leave over from it. Second, which is no, sorry, don't leave over from the Pesach. That's the second mimenu. Rabbi say and v'hanoser mimenu ad boker ba'esh tisar tisrofu, and that which is left over until the morning, burn it. So we'll say those are the 3 mimenus by Karban Pesach. So watch this. Amar Rav Yitzchak plus mimenu ksiva Pesach says 3 mimenus. Well, so what do I do with 3 mimenus? Chad legufei. Then I will say one mimenu is there to teach me again the ikra halacha. What's the ikra halacha? You can't eat from it raw, right? You can't eat from it raw. So I will say one mimenu. I just need to talk about the Karban Pesach. The Chad Gzeir Shava, one mimenu is there for the Gzeir Shava. Rabbi say, which Gzeir Shava? What's Gzeir Shava? To Meiser Sheni, to teach me again, like we're saying, just like an Arel can't eat Karban Pesach, an Arel can't eat Meiser Sheni. Good. The Chad Lemandar will say, first white line, Ayin Dalet Amadalef. The Chad Lemandar Amar, Ba'a Kosov Litin Asei, Achar Lo Sasei. And I will say, interestingly enough, the third mimenu, ultimately again, is to provide an additional asay after the lo saseh. So after the lo saseh, ultimately of not leaving it over, the Torah is also giving me an asay on top of the lo saseh. Go look at Rashi. Ba hakasuv be'esh tisrafo litin asay achar lo saseh lo marshin lo kin alav. Good. We'll say that Allah lemaisa. If you do as much as you're not supposed to leave over Karban Pesach, if you do leave it over, if you do actively leave it over, you don't get malchus for that. Fine. So we'll say, so those are the 3 mimenus. We'll say, what do you see from here? Out of the 3 mimenus, you have, by Karban Pesach, you have one of them actively designated for what purpose? Gzeir Shava. Beautiful. So therefore, it is mufni. It is open. It is open for Gzeir Shava purposes. Ulaman da'amar litain lo. Ulaman da'amar litain lo boker sheni l'sreif also. Aidi dichsev ad boker ksiv nami mimenu. And we'll say, ultimately, again, according to the opinion that says that halacha l'maisa, Actually, by Korban Pesach is coming to teach me that you don't burn it the morning of Yom Tiv, but rather you go ahead and you burn it the second morning. Ultimately, again, therefore the pasuk says mimenu. Good. So the Gemara says tlasim mimenu ksiv ma'aser. So everyone will say again. Here's the takeaway. Remember, let's remain focused. Remember, we have one guiding light question. Our life is all about who? Our life is all about who? An RL and his ability. We are all RL, all Ma'aser Sheni all the time. That's what I want to know. Right? So finally, again, we have a Mahalach. We learn out, we're floating the idea, an RL is not permitted to eat Ma'aser Sheni. How do I know that an RL is not permitted to eat Ma'aser Sheni? How do I know that? How do I know that? Gzera Shava to Pesach. Mimenu, from Ma'aser Sheni to Pesach. Just like an RL can't eat Korban Pesach, so to an RL can't eat Ma'aser Sheni. And I make Gzera Shava Mimenu. So what we're trying to figure out, are the Mimenus open? So now I've established 3 Mimenus by Pesach, 2 of them used for drashas, 1 of them open for the Gzera Shava. Beautiful. Now let's go over to Ma'aser Sheni. I would say it says 3 mimenus by Ma'aser Sheni, 3 mimenus by Ma'aser Sheni. Right? Lo chalti ba'oni mimenu, v'lo ba'arti mimenu bitamei, v'lo nasati mimenu lemeis. This is by Bir Ma'aser, right? So I will say, so ultimately again, so Ma'aser Sheni, 3 mimenus. Okay. Tlas mimenu ksiv Ma'aser, chad lo gufei. One is to teach you the Ikar Halacha Ma'aser Sheni. V'chad l'Rabbi Avo and Rabbi Yochanan. And I will say one is for the position of Rabbi Avo, which is that Halacha L'Maisa, you can go ahead and get benefit when you're burning Truma Tzemeya. Okay, side point. V'chad l'Reish Lakish. Dam Reish Lakish, Rabbi Simai, Minay L'Ma'aser Sheni Shnit Moshe Mutar L'Socho. How do you know that you're permitted to smear yourself with Ma'aser Sheni oil that became Tamei? Shene Emar, V'lo Nasati Mimenu L'Meis. I have not used Ma'aser Sheni for the dead. Lemeis, hu delo nasati. I have not used it for the dead. Halachai dumya demeis nasati. But for something for the living that could also be done for the dead, I did use it. Ezehu davar sheshava b'chayim mesim. So we'll say, what's a thing, right? What's something that is equal for the living and the dead? Havi omer zu sicha. This is anointing. Good. So we'll say, so again, let's just stay focused. What do I see from this? 3 mimenus by Pesach, 3 mimenus by Ma'aser Sheni. In both cases, 2 out of the 3 are used for drashas, but in both cases, what do I have? 1 that is mufneh, 1 that is open. Beautiful. And that creates my Gzera Shava of mimenu, from Pesach to Ma'aser Sheni, to teach me that what? Just like an RL can't eat Pesach, so to an RL can't eat Ma'aser Sheni. Oh, wonderful. Right? Wonderful. Except, Maskif la Marzutra. Okay, so Marzutra raises the kasha, right? The Ema likach lo arn v'tach richim. So I'll say, Marzutra is really just asking a shaila, not on the drasha. He's asking on Ma'aser Sheni, right? Maybe, again, it's telling me that Ma'aser Sheni can be used, could be sold, right? I could sell off the Ma'aser Sheni and use the proceeds to purchase arn and tachrichim, a casket and shrouds for the dead. Mimenu migufo. No, but say mimenu means some use from Ma'aser Sheni itself, from itself. Amar Ravashi, lo nasati dumya de lo achalti. Right? Well said, the lo nasati lameis is comparable to the consumption. Ma lahalan migufo, just like achila is the actual Ma'aser Sheni itself. Af kan migufo. Good. Well say fine. Vakati mufne mitzad echatu. So I will say, interestingly enough, the Gemara is suggesting still there's the possibility that the Gzera Shava is only open on one side, right? Mitzad echatu. To which the Gemara says, so we'll say, the issue, look at Rashi for just a moment. Mitzad echad, dahu bePesach mufel Gzera Shava, val the Meiser chulu tlas estrachsus. So here's the problem. As we've just seen that it's possible that halacha l'maisa Pesach, there is a mimenu that is available for the drush, for the Gzera Shava. By Ma'aser Sheni, some use that third mimenu to teach us a halacha. So we'll say, so therefore here's what I have. By Pesach, I have an open mimenu. By Ma'aser Sheni, I don't necessarily have an open mimenu. Then I both say, does that preclude me from making the Gzera Shava? No. But what kind of Gzera Shava is that called? That's called the Gzera Shava that's mutneh mitzad echad. It's only open on one side. Now I will say, now watch this. I can still make the Gzera Shava, but says the Gemara like this. Hani chalamanda amar. So I'm sorry. Vakati mufna misalechadu. Hani chalamanda amar lemeidin ve'in mashivin. So according to the opinion that says that even if the gzer shava is only open on one side, you can learn it and you can't refute it. But here's the problem. But according to the opinion that says that if it's only open on one side, you can make it the gzer shava, but you could also refute it. What do I do? To which the Gemara says, make a lememar. Hach Rabbi Avamid Rab Nachman Amar Baravua Nafka. Dam Rab Nachman Amar Baravua. My dirse va'ani hinei nasati lachas mishmeres trumasi b'shtei trumas hakasav medaber. Achas truma tahora va'achas truma tmeya. V'amar Rachmana lecha shelcha tehei la'asaka tachas tavshilacha. Watch this. So I will say it's okay. It's okay because what could we do? We could go ahead and open up another mimenu. How could I open up the other mimenu, Abosai? So I will say one of the mimenus by Meiser Sheni was actually not used for Meiser Sheni. What was it used for? It was used to teach me that when I burn Truma Tmeya, I could get benefit from it. So Abosai, here's the beauty. I can learn that halacha from elsewhere. I can learn that out ultimately again. Ultimately, a trumasi is plural, teaching me that there are two types of benefits of truma you can get from. You get two types of benefit you can get from truma. You can get benefit from truma tmeya, from truma tahora. Kohen consumes it, and you can get benefit from truma tmeya. I'm about to say, how does one get benefit from truma tmeya? When you burn it, which is what you have to do with truma tmeya, you can get benefit from burning it. So I'm going to say, now watch what I've just done. Well, not what the Gemara has just done, is therefore, again, we've opened up another mimenu from Meiser Sheni. And therefore, I'm going to say, beautiful news. Right? You could go ahead and say that both Pesach has an open mimenu, Meiser Sheni has an open mimenu, and therefore what? The Gzer Shava is mufne mishnei tzdadim. It's open on both ends. Rabbi say, what's the power of a Gzer Shava that's open on both ends? You can't what? You can't refute it. Rabbi say, so it sounds like over here, we have incontestable, right, unrefutable, right, irrefutable Gzer Shava, that Allah Maisa teaches me that just like an Arel can't eat Karban Pesach, so too an Arel can't eat Meiser Sheni. Rabbi say, beautiful. And Rabbi say, this is indeed how the Rambam paskins. The Rambam says in Hilchos Meiser Sheni, Perek Gimel Halacha Dalet, get ready for it. Ha'arel kitame vim achal Meiser Sheni lokim na Torah. Rabbi say it's a bit anticlimactic because Rabbi say the truth is we paskin Arel can't eat Meiser Sheni, and it has nothing to do with this Gemara. Right? Rabbi say why can't an Arel eat Meiser Sheni? Here's this fascinating. I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, but I just want to get to the punchline. Rabbi say we actually pass like Rabbi Akiva, which is fascinating, right? Rabbi say, remember again, Rabbi Akiva's drasha, going back to the beginning of this, so what was Rabbi Akiva's drasha? Ish, excellent. Ish, lerabos es ha'orel. Rabbi Akiva says an orel is tamei. Says Rabbi, yeah, that's how he paskin, right? That an orel is like a tamei. Sif Rabbi say, it turns out that an orel can't eat Meiser Sheni, but nothing to do. This is such a beautiful Gzer Shava, right? Rabbi say, this is like. This is a Gzer Shava, right? We just proved mimenu, mufna mishnei tzadin. It's open, it's beautiful, it's concrete, it's fantastic. We just don't need it, right? Because we'll say ultimately, we pass halacha l'maisa that an Arel is treated like a tamei, and therefore like Rabbi Akiva, and therefore an Arel can't eat Meiser Sheni. Good, let's go weiter. V'chol ha'tmeim. So let's go weiter. All of tmei. So also remember again, anyone who is tamei cannot eat truma. Says from where do I know this? Ish mizera Aaron v'tzura azav. So I'll say the pasuk says if any descendant of Aaron is tzarua or zav, right? So we'll say he's either a tzarua or a zav, right? The Gemara says he can't eat. So what says the Gemara? Ezu davar sheshava bezaro shalal. And here's what's interesting. The way the Torah phrases it is ish mizera, from the offspring of Aaron. So we'll say what is something that is consumable by all of the descendants of Aaron, Amud Beis? The Gemara says, Havi Omer, Zet Truma. So here's what's interesting. What is something that is consumable by all of the descendants of Aaron? Meaning men, women, children. Ultimately, again, that is Truma. If you look at Rashi for just a moment, it's very interesting. Rashi says there, Bezaro Shal Aaron, first Rashi, Bezuchar Menekevus, Dilu Kadshe Kadoshim Anitanim Lekonim, I will say you have many certain ththings, like for example, Kadshe Kadoshim, Rashi says there are certain karbanos, highest sanctity karbanos, are only consumed by men, not consumed by women. So what is something ultimately, again, that could be consumed by all Kohanic offspring? That's truma. So the Gemara says, "Ve'ema b'chazei v'shok." Maybe it's chazei v'shok, the chest and the thigh. Rabbi say, which again, whenever you go ahead and shecht an animal, Yisrael shechts an animal, you're supposed to give a portion to the Kohen. Isn't that consumable by the men and by the women and children of a Kohanic family as well? It is. But Rabbi say, who can't eat it? This is fascinating. Choseres. Rabbi say, who's a choseres? Listen to this. Who's a choseres? Rabbi say, choseres is the daughter of a Kohen who marries Yisrael. And then let's say that marriage ends with no children, either through death or divorce. What's the halacha? She goes back to her father's home. I will say, now she's not allowed to eat chazei v'shok. When she goes back to her father's home, she can eat truma, but she can't eat chazei v'shok. To which the Gemara said, but she can eat truma. So truma nami eina b'chalala. What about a chalala? Right? Chalala is related to a kohen, but ultimately again can't eat truma. Chalala lav zaro da'aroni. I will say chalala is not considered to be the offspring of Aaron. To which the Gemara says, va'umimai. So therefore I will say, when the pasuk comes along to teach me ultimately again that anyone who is tamei can't eat truma, when we say anyone means any member of the Kohanic family. What is something which can be consumed by all members of the Kohanic family? It's truma. It's truma, because there's no other portion that can be consumed by everyone. To which the Gemara says, Umimai dahai asher ad yitar ad asher yitar ad ikaherev shemesh. How do you know that asher yitar means until there's nightfall? Ema ad maisi kapara. Rabbi say maybe halacha lemaisa again. That ultimately you can't eat truma until, Rabbi say, let's say you have the type of truma that requires karbanos. Tsaras or a zav gadol. How do you know that halacha lemaisa that you can eat truma once there's hair of shemesh? Maybe you shouldn't be able to consume it up until there is kapara, until there is karbanos. To which the Gemara says, lo. Savet chedetana de Rabbi Shmuel. Bizav bal shtei re'iyos u'b'mitzora muskar hakosov medaber. Rabbi say, what type of tum is the Torah talking about over here? Like a zav with two re'iyos. Rabbi say, what's the halacha by zav with two re'iyos? He has to wait a certain period for Tara, but he is not mechuyev to go ahead and bring a karban. Mitzora muskar, Rabbi says the same idea. Halacha lamaisa has to wait, but is not chayiv in two karbanos. Look at Rashi, zav bal shtei re'iyos. Right across from Rashi. Lav bar karbanhu. He is not mechuyev to bring a karban. Rashi says, Kedisayim Meseches Megillah, Mana Akosov Shtayim V'Karot Tamei, Shalosh V'Karei Tamei, HaKetzad, Shtayim L'Tumah V'Shalosh L'Karban, U'Mitzora Muskar Nami, Lav bar karbanhu. Kedisnan Hasam, In Be Mitzora Tar, Mitoch Hesker, the Tar Mitoch Hechlet. So let's remember again, a Mitzora Muskar, I will say, is a person who was essentially sequestered because of a possible tsaras thing, but it turned out not to be tsaras. So such a person has a level of tumah, but ultimately, again, not what we call muchlat tumah. So we'll say the common denominator between zav bal shtei rios, aturiya zav, mitzora muskar, is that there is a level of tumah, but no carbonic obligation. So the Gemara says, dumya de tamei nefesh. So the Gemara says, ma tamei nefesh delav bar kaparahu. Hani nami delav bar kaparahu. Just like Rabbi say the case of tamei nefesh, ultimately where he has a period of tumah but doesn't have a chi of carbon, so too again the tumas in question over here don't have a chi of carbon. Ve'ema hani mili delav bar kapara aval de bar kapara ad maisi kapara. So we'll say, so fine. In other words, let's establish the following fact: when your tumah doesn't bring with it a chi of carbon, all you need is hair of shemesh. You could eat truma, but maybe. If, by the way, just you should know, this notion that someone who has hair of shemesh could eat truma, we'll say, where's the first time we find this halacha? That ultimately, again, all you need is hair of shemesh to eat your truma. First Mishnah Brachas, right? Me'ema saikorin shma ba'arvin, right? When can you read Shema by night? Misha shakohanim nichnasim le'echol b'trumasan. It's the first halacha in Shas. Well, it says that what the halacha l'maisa, that a kohen who is tamei, all he needs is hair of shemesh. So the Gemara is saying, well, maybe the only time he needs hair of shemesh is when he has the type of tumah that doesn't require a carbon. But maybe if he has the type of tumah that requires a carbon, he can't eat truma until when? Until he brings his carbon. V'suha, this not furthermore we learned, Taval va'ala, we'll say this is the Mitzorah Muska, right? Taval va'ala, if he went to the mikvah, Ochel b'maiser, immediately after mikvah, he's able to eat maiser sheni. Herav shimsho, Ochel truma, when the sun goes down, he can eat truma. Hevi kapara, once he brings his karbanos, Ochel b'kachim, he's permitted to eat kachim, other karbanos. Meanwhile, from where do we know this? This is fascinating. There are three different psukim. I will say, what are the three different psukim? So the Gemara says, here we go. Ksiv, v'lo yochal min hakadoshim ki im rachaz b'sara b'mayim, harachatz tar. So I will say, I have one pasuk that says, he shall not eat from consecrated items until he goes to the mikvah, which indicates to me that what? Once you go to the mikvah, you could eat consecrated items. I will say, that's pasuk 1. So pasuk 1 teaches me, all I need is mikvah. Uksiv, I will say pasuk 2, Uba shemesh v'taher v'achar yochal min hakadoshim. I will say pasuk number 2 says, once the sun sets, then you could eat from kavanah. So I'll just say something. The Baal Shem Tov HaKadosh says, there is no greater pasuk in the Torah than Uba shemesh v'taher. Right, I will say, sometimes in life we make mistakes. Let me rephrase that. Often in life we make mistakes. Let me rephrase that. All the time in life we make mistakes. And I will say, sometimes I make such a mistake and I say to myself, I've hit such a dead end. What are the three best words in the Torah? Uba hashemesh v'taher. When the sun goes down, the day is over, a new day begins. And with that day comes a new slate of Tara, a new slate of purity. Uba hashemesh v'taher. The Zohar brings down that before you make Kiddush on Friday night, to say the phrase, Uba hashemesh v'taher. It was a week filled with wonderful things, but also a week filled with mistakes. The beauty of Shabbos Kodesh, the sun goes down, a new day begins, a new Shabbos begins, v'taher. Every day brings with it a new slate of Tara. The three best words in the entire Torah Kedosh. Incredible. So we'll say, Ba shemesh v'taher v'achar yochal min hakadoshim. Uksiv. So we'll say, so that's pasuk number 2. Pasuk number 2 says that ultimately when the sun goes down, now I could partake of consecrated items. Uksiv v'chiper HaKohen v'tahira. And I will say, ultimately the Torah also says, v'chiper HaKohen, which is what? Karbanos. So we'll say, so watch this. I have three different psukim. One pasuk tells me all I need to do is to go into the mikvah and I can eat consecrated items. One pasuk tells me all I need is herav shemesh, I can eat consecrated items. And one pasuk says I need karbanos. So which one is it? Mikvah, herav shemesh, or karbanos? Which the answer is all three for different things. Kan lemaiser. Rabbi said the first pasuk that says all you need is mikvah, that's maiser sheni. Once you go to the mikvah, you can eat maiser sheni. Kan l'truma. The pasuk of herav shemesh, Rabbi is talking about what? Truma. Once you have herav shemesh, then you can eat truma. Kan l'kachim. Ultimately, the third pasuk that talks about karbanos, they will say, when can you eat karbanos? Only after you bring your karbanos. Ve'epoch ve'epochano. So why can't I switch it around? In other words, how do you know what refers to what? Maybe after I go to the mikvah, I can eat truma, and my sheni is only after herav shemesh. No. Mistabra truma adifa. I will say, no. It doesn't make sense to swap truma with meiser sheni. Why? Because truma is more chamer. Shekein machpaz. I will say, because remember again, truma's got machpaz, right? Misa, pidyon, chomesh, zorim. Adraba, meiser sheni adifa, shekein hadas tab. Meiser sheni has chumras. What does meiser sheni have chumras, right? Hadas tab. So all the chumras, we saw this before. Afilochi misa adifa. No, still, truma is still going to be more chamer. Why? Because halacha l'maisa, so Rabbi say intentional consumption of truma by a non-kohen carries with it a chi of misa. So therefore, Rabbi say, here's the model we have, right? Tvila allows for meiser sheni, herav shemesh allows for truma, and karbanos allow for the consumption of other karbanos. Incredible. Rava Amar below misa adifa. Even without misa, ultimately truma is more chamer. Why? So the Gemara says, even below afila below misa. Rava Amar below misa adifa nami. Lo matzis amrit. So lo matzis. Below misa adifa nami lo matzis amrit. Amar kra nefesh. Eizehu davar sheshava bechol nefesh. Havi omer ze meiser sheni. Because we'll say the pasuk by Tila says nefesh. what's the thing that is equivalent to everything? Rabbi say that everyone has the same halacha in. It's Meiser Sheni. To which the Gemara says, "Vakati hani mi lihechad la bar kapara." So Rabbi say that's fine, but still the idea that halacha lamaisa you could go ahead and eat something with harav shemesh only applies to something that doesn't have the chiyuv karban. Ultimately, again, avahecha debar kapara ad demaisi kapara, but still halacha lamaisa. Rabbi say, well, let's go a little bit later. We have time. So Rabbi Trey Kraiksi, Rabbi says it's two psukim. So Gemara says Trey Kraiksi, bioledes ksiv ad melosi meitara. By Yoledes, it says ad melosi meitara. Actually, say no. We're going to stop. Let's stop here. We'll say we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna pick up Emir Hashem va'akati right at the stop over there. We'll say. But bottom line, I just want to point out a very important yisod. So we'll say what we have so far now are three different categories. So first of all, we'll say Baruch Hashem, we've established Arol Meiser Sheni, no go. But not because of our beautiful Gzera Shava, right? Of Mimenu, but rather because of Rabbi Akiva. Ish l'rabos hasa'aral arla is tuma. Now Rabos say we've established is also three different layers of tara. Tvila, herav shemesh karban. Tvila allows for meiser sheni. Herav shemesh allows for truma. Karban allows for the consumption of other karbanos. Rabos say what we're trying to now figure out is halacha l'maisa. We've established that for essentially any type of tuma, once you have herav shemesh, you're good to go with meiser sheni. To which the Gemara just wants to push back and say, maybe the type of tumah that requires carbon should only permit the consumption of meiser sheni once you bring that carbon. It's that point that we're focused on, that point that we'll resolve in tomorrow's daf. Shkoyach.